Peace. Rami Salam Al here. Thank you for joining us. We're going to be doing some reading today, coming out of the Spandau Mystery by Peter Moon. Notice the young brother right here with the feathered cap. We'll get to that in a moment. Just wanted to first read the biography of Peter Moon. You can find this on Amazon, his website as well, Skybooks. Yeah, skybooks.usa.com. Peace to Peter Moon. Peter was born in San Fernando, California, and grew up in both Southern and Northern California. Interested exclusively in athletics in his early years, he became interested in creative writing, science fiction, and science during his high school years. His exploration into these fields during the 1960s led to an interest in Eastern religion and Western occultism, which culminated in a unique career and association that centered around the private concerns of L. Ron Hubbard, a renowned science fiction writer who is an accomplished occultist, but it is also known as the controversial founder of Dianetics and Scientology, a movement which explored the brutal effects of mind control that have been inflicted upon the human race and sought methods to free the human spirit from the confines of the human body. And also, just wanted to read the dedication. This book is dedicated to Dr. Elias Bey, aka Julius Coleman, an indigenous Great Seal Moor who introduced me to the world of the Moors and inspired the character of Ali Bey. Elias passed away during the writing of this book, but his contribution will live on in these pages. Islam. I'm going to be reading from, and the book is amazing, so I suggest you get it yourself and read it. But I'm going to be reading chapter 9. It's entitled El Morocco. I'm going to read. I can't say I was expected to see all my patrons from the last few days. Come all of you, join us. We have cause for celebration. You are most welcome too, said the Moor to the strange man and the lady. The strange man was Aleister Crowley. Aleister Crowley. Crowley, who had been able to successfully overcome the interruption of his own card-induced meditation, now found himself having to recover from the shock of having been interrupted twice. His eyes looked disoriented. The Moor, sensing his discomfort, spoke again. Yes, do come. As a matter of fact, that man in the colorful cap insisted I invite all of you over. The Moor then pointed to an Oriental man who was wearing a rainbow-colored cap, which made him stand out amongst the others. He was also wearing a white saffron robe. Crowley looked up at the Tibetan as if he recognized him. He gestured to Rose, and the entire party made their way to the table of the Moor's entourage. Although not a word was spoken, this was a very special gathering of a brotherhood that traced its roots back to the ancient magi of antiquity. They were a sacred brotherhood of wisdom that reached across continents. On this morning they had gathered to celebrate the initiation of young Timothy Thru, a man who was just about to begin his education in the brotherhood. Just days before, the Moor, at the direction of his brethren, had taken a blindfolded Timothy to the king's chamber, whereupon he was either to find his way out or perish. It was an ancient rite of initiation into adeptship, but it was not offered to just anyone. Timothy Thru was a man of special abilities, who had found his way from America to the delta of the Nile. From there, it did not take him long to get to Cairo. When he finally arrived, the brethren was already waiting for him. In fact, he was expected, not because he had sent a letter or was summoned by normal human means, but because it was foreseen. Now that he had passed his initial test of initiation, he would undergo a 10-year training program before returning to America to teach that land the truth of its ancient heritage and what had been forgotten. On this morning, however, the brethren were celebrating. The Tibetan, the man with the rainbow headdress, invited the others to come and join them. He spoke a somewhat broken English, but seemed to understand much. Although from diverse backgrounds, every one of their brethren spoke English. In fact, all had a background in linguistics and spoke different languages. The Hesses and the Crowleys were invited to sit at the center of the table, right across from the Moor, the Tibetan, and Timothy Thru. I just wanted to pause for a moment, and if you wonder where Timothy Thru will become Noble Drew Ali. But let us continue. I'm going to skip ahead right here. As murmurs could be heard all across the table, two Caucasian men at the end of the table, one rather short, began a rather animated discussion. Elias the Moor then stood up and addressed the group. Our new initiate has indeed showed his worthiness. Perhaps he would like to treat our new friends to a demonstration of what I discussed with Carl yesterday. You mean the power of the vril? V-R-I-L, vril. Asked Carl Hess. The Moor nodded and all suddenly became quiet. The Tibetan with the rainbow hat then produced a piece of parchment. Use this, said the Tibetan. It will make the job easier. The Moor was about to test the new initiate's abilities. He did not know, but readily suspected, that the young Timothy Thru could move this leather parchment without touching it. Placing the parchment in front of Timothy Thru, he cleared off the rest of the table. Everyone was silent once again. Timothy concentrated but did not waste any time. Before anyone could think skeptical thoughts, he had, either through pure will alone or by a stage magician's trick, lifted the parchment off of the table without touching it. It then began to move, ostensibly at the will of Timothy Thru, in the direction of the young Hess. As it moved towards the young man, however, the direction of the flow was interrupted. Instead, it began to shift towards Aleister Crowley, as if it were being influenced by another force. The parchment then appeared to tug itself back in the direction of the young Hess, as if there was a war of two wills. Finally, the parchment moved unfettered and stood right in front of Rudolph. Grab it, said the Tibetan, and the young boy did. Well, there you have it, said the Moor to Carl Hess. What I told you yesterday about the pyramids is backed up by more than a simple theory. You have now experienced the force of will, also known as the vril. Remember, the power of the vril is the power of the pyramid, and that is the power of Allah. And that is what we are all here to discuss. I must now ask our new friends to leave us to our work. This is Peter Moon. This is Timothy Thru, right there. Also known as Prophet Noble Drew Ali. And I think I'll close out with some of his words. Let's do that. Out of the Holy Koran of the Moorish Holy Temple of Science. I'm going to be reading the end of time and fulfilling of the prophecies. Come all ye Asiatics of America and hear the truth about your nationality and birthrights, because you are not Negroes. Learn of your forefathers' ancient and divine creed, that you will learn to love instead of hate. We are trying to uplift fallen humanity. Come and link yourselves with the family of nations. We honor all the true and divine prophets. Islam.